In the anime universe of Code Geass, one romantic couple stands above the rest, that being Lelouch and C.C. Lelouch and C.C. are such a popular couple that many of you love hearing about them. At least that's what my top videos tell me. Despite how many videos I've done on this couple, there's always more to say. So I have decided to analyze each of their scenes from the anime and maybe the manga in the future. Doing this will allow me to accomplish several things. Number 1, I can show you all the scenes of the two characters. Number 2, fulfill my promise to re-upload the compilation videos I deleted in a form that would comply with YouTube's guidelines. And number 3, finally do a deep dive into the series through scene analysis, which is something I've always wanted to do. It's always good to start chronologically in a story when doing analysis like this, so we'll start at the beginning where these two characters first met. A seemingly random event that was actually part of a grander scheme, and what came from this is something that even the creators may not have intended to happen. We're going to focus today on the first interactions between C.C. and Lelouch from Stage 1 and Stage 2, so expect heavy spoilers from those episodes, and of course, anything from Code Geass is always on the table in any of my videos. Let's begin. Lelouch and C.C. first met because of a truck. Hard to believe that a truck is the reason for all of this, but that's exactly what happened. After defeating a Britannian nobleman in chess, something that Lelouch typically does to satisfy his boredom, he travels with rivals by motorcycle on their way back to school. Unfortunately for our anti-hero, Colin and Nagato are carrying precious stolen cargo on a truck, more precious than they realize. Nagato avoids crashing into rivals by instead crashing into a building construction site. After the crash, Lelouch first tells Rivals that it wasn't their fault. He gets out of the motorcycle to get a better look. Lelouch sees that people are taking photos with their phones instead of doing something. Sounds like life today. In frustration, he goes out to help the people in the truck. When he approaches the truck, a green flash appears, which is C2's way of communicating with him. This event also happened to Suzaku in Stage 22. We then hear C2 say,
"It's you. Finally, I have found my..."
which implied that she was waiting for him, the one who can finally fulfill her contract, her deepest wish. Lelouch climbs on board the truck only for it to drive away with him falling inside it, which Rivals says was a hit and run, but for some reason he didn't notice Lelouch falling into the truck. Kinda weird. While the truck drives into sewers, Lelouch sits next to the vessel containing the person who would change his life forever. Nagato eventually is stuck in the sewers and calls for help. Suzaku at the same time heads out to find the truck after the most racist pep talk in anime history. He attacks Lelouch in the truck, being unable to recognize him while wearing the helmet, a joke Komet made during the episode. Suzaku would later recognize Lelouch after removing the helmet, but during their reunion, the container opens up, and since his superiors told Suzaku it contained poisonous gas, he immediately puts a mask on Lelouch. Instead of gas, we see C2 in her iconic straitjacket representing her enslavement come out of the capsule. Confused and probably a little excited, the boys help C2 out of the straitjacket, but that's interrupted by that same racist commander from before. He's grateful that they found C2, but orders Suzaku to kill Lelouch, an order he can't obey given their friendship. Suzaku unfortunately thinks that somehow a Japanese soldier defying the orders of a racist commander who's specifically racist towards Japanese people wouldn't lead to any bad outcomes. But surprise, surprise, he shoots Suzaku. Lelouch obviously is freaking out right now, and thanks to Nagato's sacrifice, he escapes with C2. As they run away, C2 trips on the parts of the straitjacket that Suzaku and Lelouch weren't able to remove. Lelouch blames C2 for everything at this point, which is something he does quite often in the story in events to come, so that was great foreshadowing. And in this case, he's right. She's the reason for this, but he has no idea how far the rabbit hole really goes. The two end up on the other end of the warehouse. Unfortunately, so does the racist commander and his goons. Oh, I should also mention that Britannia has been killing Japanese civilians as part of Clovis's urban renewal. What a sad excuse for a human being. Despite initially showing anger towards C2, Lelouch tries to protect her while they stay in their current position, because Lelouch does care about people, and that was his original motivation to help everyone in the truck. Thanks to Shirley calling Lelouch at the worst possible time, the royal guards find Lelouch and C2. Oh, and before that, Lelouch hangs up on Shirley, something he does quite often to her. Anyways, the racist commander commends Lelouch and then proceeds to shoot him. C2 runs like a person possessed, shouting, shouting he mustn't die, a line that will contain even more meaning as the story progresses. She takes the bullet to the head and falls unconscious, because even though C2 is a bullet sponge, she still needs time to recover, and this time allows the guards to pick up where they left off and attempt to shoot Lelouch. Lelouch now stands alone with two people, one of them his best friend, taking bullets for him. There are no more shields, and he is truly terrified right now. He's worried about Nunnally and dying young without accomplishing anything. But then, C2 grabs Lelouch's hand and his mind is shown in a different plane of existence, where C2 offers him a contract where he would live in a different life from everyone else. C2 leveraged that Lelouch cared about Nunnally against him as an incentive to accept the contract despite not knowing the conditions, a problem that almost backfires later on in the story. Once Lelouch accepts the contract, we then see C2 on the floor, smiling. Lelouch starts the trend of asking deep questions to his enemies before unveiling his master plan. He asks the guards about how to handle someone who hates his own country, then proceeds to say that famous quote, the one quote that summarizes all of Lelouch's philosophy.
The only ones who should kill are those who are prepared to be killed.
Lelouch uses his Geass power to force the soldiers to kill themselves. He is initially shocked by the fallout, but then gives us that sick smile to end the episode. In the next episode, Lelouch leaves C2 for dead, not sure why she gave him this power to begin with, and wondering what was the purpose of it all. And that concluded the first interaction between these two characters. There is a lot to break down with these scenes. The first thing I immediately latched onto is that the show presents C2 as a mystery. We experience the story through Lelouch. As he learns more about C2, so do we. And right now, he knows nothing. And due to C2's stubbornness, Lelouch's attempt to learn more will not be easy. One of the biggest aspects of the story is C2's past and the terms of her contract, crucial plot points that we learn about towards the end of the series. And this first episode did a great job setting this all up. The next thing to talk about is how these characters protect each other in this episode. C2 protects Lelouch since she believes he's the one who could fulfill her contract, and Lelouch protects her because he still feels a sense of obligation to do so, despite C2's indirectly leading to the killing of his best friend. Now, Lelouch has no idea who this girl is, but the opposite isn't true. C2 was watching Lelouch and Suzaku as children to start stage 1, and as a side note, she didn't seem to age when you compare her from that moment to this one. This is actually one of the two ways the story foreshadows her immortality early on. The second is by not showing her in that warehouse near the end of stage 2. Getting back to the point, I don't know when C2 decided this, but at some point she determined that Lelouch would be the one to finally fulfill her contract. I know she's immortal, but that doesn't take away the fact that she rushed to protect Lelouch. Her desire to protect Lelouch is something we are going to see throughout the story, and that desire comes from her duty to help out Marion and Charles because she wants him to fulfill her contract, and because as the story progresses, C2 starts to develop genuine feelings for Lelouch. Lelouch will also protect C2, making sure she's okay even when he's angry at her, something we saw in this first episode, because he's a good man and he's also thankful for C2 saving his life, and probably was developing feelings for her as the story progresses, but that's up for debate. Their transformation from co-conspirators to friends and eventually lovers is observed through interactions like this one, and something to watch out for on subsequent rewatches. I next want to talk about the setting. Lelouch finds C2 in the middle of a war zone, a war bigger than he realizes, a war in which he would be deciding peace in determining the winner. The world is dark, and so is Lelouch's mental state. He's an exiled prince who reveals that despite being physically healthy, mentally he's dead inside, something we learn why in later episodes, and of course right after he kills everyone with the Geass power. Given the past of both these characters, I can't think of a better circumstance in which the two should meet. At the beginning of stage 2, Lelouch leaves C2 for dead, wondering why she gave him this power. At the end of Arc 2, C2 leaves Lelouch, before he sacrificed himself as part of the Zero Requiem. C2 then contemplates the consequence of Geass and the meaning behind it. I like the parallels in those two scenes. It's interesting how Lelouch and C2, despite coming from two different worlds, were going through the same thing. Both didn't consider themselves truly living, both were stuck in an infinite loop, doing the best they can to keep going. And it's through meeting each other that both would rediscover their will to live. None of this would have happened had this scene never occurred, so I guess we should thank Tamaki for screwing up, because otherwise Kallen and Nagato may not have traveled along this route, and none of this would have happened. And that was part 1 of my dive into the scenes between Lelouch and C2. Please let me know if you enjoyed the video and liked the direction the channel is going in. What are your thoughts on the scene? If you want more C2 and Lelouch analysis, check out my video where I discuss how the relationship evolved in anime. And as I always like to say, the world is not a dark place, and tomorrow will be a good day. Thanks for watching.